Hello everyone. Hello all of you. Good afternoon class. Hello class, good afternoon. So how are all of you doing?
Great, ma'am.
Great. How are your online submissions and online classes going on? Okay, let us get started. Okay class, here we go. I'll put everyone on mute for a while and then we'll get started, and as we finish bits we will again have the forum open for discussion. So I put all of you on mute at the moment and let's start. Okay, I'm sharing a screen with you. Here everyone, you can just raise your hands because I can see what's going on up there. Okay, do you see the slide that I have opened? Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, I got it. So let's get started. Hoping that all of you are good, and now getting started with our subject. It has been a while that we have spoken. Let's go ahead with unit number 6. Before we start, let us quickly revisit the course outcome for this particular unit, and let's read it out together. So what is expected after we complete this unit is we will be able to calculate the pulse transfer function and step response of a digital control system, and then describe the digital controllers PID and PLC with respect to their components, characteristics, and addressing. Design given system using PLC ladder diagrams. So if we see the course outcome, we have multiple things that we will be doing in this unit, and this session we will dedicate to pulse transfer function. So let us get started. Let's quickly start with preliminaries before all of us we are on the same page. Uh, so I mean, since your second year or even perhaps first year, you have always been familiar with these terms, and the terms like discrete time signal or continuous time signal, sampled data, digital signal. So if at all you mark in this particular unit, our focus will be a digital control system. Now, before we go deep into digital control system, let us quickly understand what did we do in first 5 units, or to be very specific until the 4th unit, and what different are we going to do now. So as it is very clear from the title or the just heading of the topic, that now we are going to get introduced to digital control system. So we know that when it comes to a discrete time signal, we always define it at discrete instance of time. In discrete time signal, uh, if the amplitude can assume a continuous range of values, then we also call it as a sampled data, as you see here in a third figure. So the first figure that you see, it's a continuous time signal, and then you see continuous time quantized signal. So at some instances there is a quantization involved, and then we have something like sampled data, wherein amplitude can assume a continuous range of values, but it is at discrete instance of time. So in discrete time signal, if the amplitude is quantified, it's quantized, then such a signal we call it as a digital signal. So I'm sure that you must be remembering the fundamentals that you have studied in SNS, and you must be remembering the concepts of CT, CV, and others like continuous time and continuous value. And this is exactly where we are going to go towards digital control systems. Please mark that even some books also call it as discrete time, discrete control systems. And do understand the difference between digital and discrete. So when it is a continuous time signal, we have always defined it as a continuous range, like analog, like we have seen in the earlier units. And when it comes to your discrete, we always go for discrete time instances, and it can be CTCV as in continuous, or it can be at discrete values. So what actually is different in this particular unit, it will be very clear if you see this slide. Now the diagram that is shown in pink is something which we always kept on studying, and that diagram is nothing but we have a controller, a plant, a sensor to take up the feedback. We have command input and output. And when it comes to digital control system, let us understand that where actually is the difference that we have. So when we come to digital control system, please focus on the block which is highlighted in blue, and it is very clearly indicated. See the blocks which are marked in red. We do have A to D and D to A converter which is involved in this particular control system. So when we speak about a digital control system, we can actually view it from various perspectives. So it can be a control algorithm that is to be used, a digital control algorithm or a discrete one. We can speak it up in terms of computer program. We can speak it up in terms of conversion from A to D or D to A. So if you see the upper diagram, if you try and relate and recollect our initial chapters, in continuous time control system, all the system variables are continuous. They are continuous signals. Whether the system is linear or non-linear. In our syllabus, we have always focused our attention to LTI. But then we also know that there can be practical systems could also be non-linear as well. So irrespective of what the system is, when moment we say it is continuous, all variables are continuously present, or they are available at all the given times. So typical continuous time control system is shown on the slide, which we kept on doing in all the chapters earlier. And in this particular chapter, our focus will be on a digital control system. So moment we speak about a digital control system, the control algorithm is implemented using a digital controller or a computer. We do have A to D converter, which is quite obvious, and we also have a D to A converter. Ultimately, our plant is going to function as with analog inputs, and computer will only be able to do it on a digital one. So A to D and D to A are inseparable components of a digital control system. So what is happening, if you see the left half, is error is discretized and it is fed to the computer by using an A to D converter and after that controller output is again a discrete signal which is applied to the plant after D to A converter. So if you have a quick look at the diagram, it is very inevitable that sampling is the fundamental property which is happening in DCS. It is because of the discrete nature of the digital operation or the controller that you are planning to use. So if we look at this diagram now, we do have sampling which is being indicated. So it shows you the structure and operation of a finite pulse width sample, and we see a basic block diagram. So I think it must be very clear that T is nothing but a sampling period and P is the duration that you see. I hope you are able to trace out the mouse as I move it out here. I have a train generator, or we can see a signal which is marked. I have a pulse train generator, and T is nothing but the period. P is the period for which I'm taking the sample. So the pulse is high. And the output that I now see, as it is quite obvious, it is discrete at the time period. So now before diving in more details of DCS, which is expected in our syllabus, I'm sure all the advantages of going digital are very obvious. So let it be probability of accuracy or even the drift, which can be removed, or the ease of implementing a digital controller, or the sophistication of the algorithm, or maybe in some plans when you have to reconfigure it, remodulate, digital will always give you a upper hand as compared to analog. And then we also know the limitations that we have to pay by it. So after seeing that sample and hold, I'm sure that this diagram, I just thought that let me rebrush your uh, fundamentals which you have already seen. We all know that the whole circuit can be of any degree. And now in this particular unit, we are going to only focus on zero order hold. So this completes just one single bit of what we plan to do right now. And I'll put all of you to, I would like all of you to speak and hear from you. That is the first part very clear. I stopped sharing for a while and I would like to hear from all of you. Yes, class, are you all with me? Yes, class, I did not hear from anyone still. Yes, class, everybody sleeping or what? Good morning, class.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good morning, class.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So is the first fundamental, which is the most fundamental one. Is that clear before we move any further? Yes, class? Okay, I do hear from Pranav and okay, yes. Let's get started. Let's get going to the next block. And I again put you all to mute, just to avoid the disturbances which are there in background. Yes, Mahi, thank you. Okay, so I'll put all of you to mute and let us again go to the next important bit now. Give me a second, please. Here we start. So I was here, right? Okay, so here we go. This is where we took a small break. It was at zero order hold. And now let us go down to the next part where we will get introduced to a very new term, and the term is nothing but pulse transfer function, which is also called as a starred transfer function. So what do you actually mean by this? Why do we have to go for pulse transfer function? I mean, why is it so that we have to introduce this word pulse out of nowhere? Okay, and why is it that we just cannot continue with what we have been doing for the initial chapters? So I know all of you do remember that when it was LTI system, so let me say it and put it up in this words, like it is a continuous time system which we had seen earlier. We always defined G of S, which is transfer function, as C of S by R of S. That is what we did. Where your R of S and C of S, they are nothing but Laplace transforms of input and output. Input R of t and output C of t. Now we always assumed in that case that your initial conditions are 0. Now why is it so that we aren't using the same thing? I'm sure all of you have answers with you. We have all marked that now we are moving from continuous to discrete or maybe to digital systems. So when it was earlier Laplace, now I'll have to use a transform which works out for digital or discrete parameters, and which is nothing but your PTF. Now I call it as a pulse transfer function. I hope the word pulse makes an impact and helps you relate with the word digital. So this PTF, it relates Z transform of the sampling instance to the Z transform of the sampled input. I repeat this sentence because I want all of you to take a note of it. Pulse transfer function relates Z transform of the sampling instance to the Z transform of the sampled input. In a while, once we see pulse transfer function, we will revisit this sentence once again. Now, the continuous time signals, they are subjected to a sampled data or a digital signal. So I hope all of you, even in the previous slide that we had, I'm sure all of you did take a mark at one particular, okay, year. I hope all of you did mark an asterisk here. I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention about it when we were on this slide. So whenever you're giving a continuous output, the output that I get is a sampled output, which is nothing but starred output. So please revisit this diagram now. And the input R of t was nothing but it was a continuous one. We have introduced a switch as good as a sampler. The output you see is R starred t, which is nothing but a sampled data, or I can also put it up saying it's a digital signal. Now this R star of t, the corresponding is nothing but a corresponding digital signal to the input. Now this is what is exactly shown, and this is exactly where pulse transfer function will come into picture. So the output of this system, if I have to write C of, ignore this dotted line for a minute. Let us only focus on what we have been seeing all these days. So we had this G of S, which is your transfer function. You have input, which is R of t. You have output, which is C of t. Earlier, our focus was R of S, C of S. Now we have introduced a sampler in between with an attempt to make it digital, and the output is R star of t or R star of S. Now the output that I have, C of S, is nothing but G of S, the transfer function here, multiplied by R star of S. So the transfer function of this particular system that we have shown, digital system, if you take a look at the transfer function which is given, I want you to understand that it is very difficult to manipulate or maybe to calculate it. It is because it contains a mixture of analog as well as a digital component. So what is desirable? Would it not be better if I am able to express the system characteristics by a transfer function which relates R star of t and C star of t? So now you can take your attention to this dotted line. The reason it is dotted because it's a fictitious sampler output. It's a virtual one. Okay. Until we understand pulse transfer function, I would like you to take a look at it. So what are we actually doing? It is desirable, it will be convenient to express the system characteristics by a transfer function which will relate R star of S with C star of S, or R star of t with C star of t. Now if you draw your attention to the next block, this is exactly what is nothing but a pulse transfer function. So I hope you understand how it is different from the regular transfer function. You have G star of S, C star of S, and R star of S. So we have a digital quantity on the left hand, which is being related to the digital quantities or the discrete ones on the right hand as well. So sometimes this is also called as a pulse transfer function. So when it comes to a pulse transfer function, or maybe Z transform of a transfer function, that is also the way I can put it up, or I can also call it as a starred transfer function. This PTF, it characterizes the discrete digital system, let us say. The responses only at the sampling instances, which is quite obvious. Moment you have taken sample, you will get the value of that particular signal only at the sampling instances. And the output information in between these two samples is obviously lost. So is this word PTF very clear? Class, I'll again hold on my slides for a minute, and I would like to unmute all of you and have a word from all of you. Yes, class. Is this word PTF very clear? Yes, everybody? Yes, Mehul, let me know. Did you understand PTF? Okay. How about you, Sharvari? Are you there with us, dear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Sharvari. Prajwal, got this new word PTF. Why is it necessary and why do we have to go for it when we are talking about digital control systems? Vaishnavi, is that clear, dear?
Hello.
Yes, Vaishnavi, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good going, all of you. Now let us move down to the next part where we will again go back to our slides. Okay. And now let us see how are the things going to change, though the process will remain same. What is it that we next have to take into account? So I scroll down. I again put all of you to mute. I hope you don't mind. It is the first time I'm asking you all to keep quiet, but then I want you to note that it is for disturbances, right? Okay, here we go. This is what we have seen, which is nothing but your pulse transfer function. Let's go ahead. Now, general procedures for obtaining pulse transfer function. I'm sure many of you have also submitted, not submitted, many of you have also told me that you are working on this particular assignments and then you are still facing some difficulties on it. So please understand what actually is happening when we speak about a pulse transfer function. Now, I do not want any one of you to mug up these rules. I want you to keep your logical reasoning high and understand what is happening. Okay? This is a transfer. This is the block that we are speaking about. It is G of S. It is very similar to what we have already done. Okay? All this while we have always spoken about transfer function in S domain. Now that we are moving to Z, we are moving, now that we go on to digital, we are moving to Z. So this something, the first part that we always calculate, which is nothing but your Y of S, is something which we already saw in the previous slide. So I take you to this slide. So this is actually the same thing which is again written in a different fashion. So whenever I'm trying to obtain a pulse transfer function, which is nothing but y star of s, practically it is going to be y of s. I'll take a start function y star of s, which in this diagram, if at all you see, will be g of s into x of s, the whole star. Now it is directly written as g into x of s. After seeing these two slides, we will go to the notes and understand the properties of the start function, so that writing this g into x, this part will be very clear. So I'm sorry, I'll take you to the previous slide. Okay. Okay, here we are. I'm sorry for the disturbances caused. Let's go ahead. We were on this slide, and while we are trying to understand these steps, I want you to temporarily park these thoughts, because these will be clear when we jump to the notes which were shared with all of you. So the next important point, pulse transfer function or PTF of cascaded elements. Now this is again something which I want you to note. Though it looks very complicated or maybe little nasty at the moment, moment we go through it, it's going to be very clear. Let us only understand the differences. Now here we start. This is one system that we have, G of S, okay, and then you have one more block. So if you are trying to cascade these blocks using a sampler in between, what will happen? And you are trying to cascade these two blocks without a sampler in between. So these are some of the cases. We will see the properties of the start function and then we will again come down to these slides so that it will be very clear. But as of now, the reason I'm showing you these slides is I want you to understand the various possible configurations. You have two systems which can be cascaded. You can either put up a sampler in between, so you are cascading the elements using a sampler, or you are cascading the elements without the sampler. So in both the cases, the final transfer function that you get is going to be different, and we will need the properties of star function before we see this. So I'll introduce a new share now. I'm again putting, I would like to hear from all of you. Yes, everyone, do you see the PDF that I'm sharing? Yes, class.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Rishikesh, is there a doubt? I see your hand up.
मैम वो पीटीएफ का बताओ एक बार फिर से थोड़ा
The one that is on slide.
यस
Okay, what I'll do, Rishikesh, is let me complete this and then I'll again explain it to you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now that I'm sharing a PDF, just understand start functions. We will go back to the slides and I'll come down to your point. Is that okay, Rishikesh? Let's start. So the initial part, we have already seen it in the slides, and I leave it to all of you to again go through it. Now I would like to discuss this particular point before we again go back to the slides. So properties of a start function. Now again, when it comes to these properties, we are going to discuss them very logically. And moment you understand them logically, then writing it down or using it in your calculations will never be challenging. So let's do it together. The first property that you have is R star of S. Okay. Now we always know that star is nothing but a digital signal. It is a digitized or maybe a discrete one. A signal which is already discrete or digital, or which is already a sampled one, to be very specific, I am again taking a sample of it. So do you understand the left hand side, everyone? Let's do it again. I have a signal R of S. Forget this from control systems point of view for a minute. I have an input R of S. Star shows it's a sampled one or a digital or a discrete one whatsoever. I prefer calling it as a sampled at the moment. So it's a sampled one, and what you're doing by putting up another asterisk is you're again sampling it. So the output that you see is obviously a sampled output. So what we see is R star of S starred again is nothing but R star of S. So is the first property clear? Sampling a already sampled signal will result in a sampled signal. You can logically imagine it out. I want you to think of a sampled signal and you again taking samples of that sampled signal. So you are digitizing something which is already digital. So the output will be obviously digital. So the first property, I hope it is no challenge to understand. So let me again hear from all of you. I unmute you. Yes, class, is the first property clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Here we go. Now the second properties, I want you to pay attention to the second and the third one. We will have a look at it simultaneously. Okay, so G star of S into H of S. Now what is G star of S? It's a sampled signal. A sampled signal is being multiplied with a continuous one. Okay, I want you to think in this fashion. So let me say this is A and this is B. A is a sampled signal. You're multiplying it with a continuous one. So do you at the first place, does it strike you that this in itself will be a digital signal? So how do I put it up? It's a sampled one. You're multiplying it by a continuous one. So I break it up, G star of S into star and H star of S. So the resultant is nothing but G star of S into H star of S. Now, how can I logically make sense out of it? G star of S is a digital output. It's a sample signal. H of S is a continuous signal. Now this product is always going to be a sample signal again, because it is as good as the H of S being multiplied by a train of pulse, which is a digital signal. So this is always going to be a digital one. And again, a digital sample is being sampled. So the resultant will be as good as G star of S, which is nothing but your sample signal, and H star of S, which will again be a sample signal. Now this originally was a sample signal. H of S was nothing but continuous one. And because you're sampling the entire part, you're going to get something of this kind, which will not, I repeat, will not be true in the third case. What is the difference in the second and the third case, to be very specific? In the second case, you have a continuous signal and you are multiplying it by samples. In the third case, both the signals are continuous. So in the second case, when you have a continuous signal and you're multiplying it by samples, the result is nothing but product of two samples, two sampled signals. Here, multiplication of these two signals is going to lead to altogether different signal. So you can think of multiplier signals here. You have studied op-amps as multiplier. So please understand, you have one signal here, you have the other one. You're multiplying them. After multiplication, you are taking the sampling of it, which will never be equal to individual samplings. This is exactly what distinguishes or differentiates the second property from the third one. In the second property, one of it was already digital. In the third property, both of them are continuous. So if you see in the second property, moment you have one star inside, this is going to hold true. So A into B raised to N is equal to A raised to N into B raised to N. This happens only and only when one of the signal is already digitized. Jabki when you come to the part where both the signals are continuous, in this case, this will never be true. Is that clear? So the entire chapter PTF problems that you solve, they are completely going to depend only and only on these three properties. So it is these properties which should matter to you, and do not mug it up. As I say, think about it logically. Let's revisit it quickly in a minute before we go to slides again. We have a digital signal again, or we have a sampled output. Again, sampling a sampled output doesn't make sense. So when a sampled output is again sampled, result is sampled. You have a continuous signal multiplied by a sampled data. So the result will be digital. Now digital, again you are taking samples. So you are going to get it as product of two digital, which will not be true for two continuous signals. So these three properties are the properties which will matter to you. Is that clear, everyone? So I would like to hear from all of you. Yes, class. Any doubt in any of these three properties? Would you like to take a minute and note it down so that it will be quickly revised before I move down to slides again? Yes, Divya. Arjun, how is it going? Kaushal, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Okay. Anybody sleeping there? I'm missing our lectures. I cannot figure out how many of you are sitting there. Yes, class? Okay. I'll again put you all to mute and let's go to the slides. Now, I want all of you to know that this session is about to expire in next 3 minutes. So I want you to be patient, and I'll schedule a next meeting immediately, and I'll share the code. Ayush has been kind enough, to share everything that I'm asking him to. So we will start with, in the next session, we will only take one problem and understand it thoroughly. Once that is done, I'm sure you'll be able to solve any of the problems. So before I stop, let me address Rushikesh. Rushikesh, you're with us? Yes, Rushikesh. Okay, I have put you on mute. I'm sorry. I hope you're there and active. Rishikesh wanted to understand what is PTF. So let's get started again for Rishikesh, and rest of the students, I want you to be patient because in next 5 minutes, I'll send the recode. So Rishikesh, for you here. Now, what was happening in continuous signal is we did not have anything like this, a switch or anything of this kind. We had all the variables which were available continuously. But moment we say it is a digital system, we know that there will be a controller available. Now, please understand, there are references which are hesitant to call controller as digital explicitly, because moment you say it is a controller, it has to be digital. Now, when you have a controller, which by obviously is digital, input to a controller will be digital. Now, what did you have all this while with you? Continuous signals. You have continuous signal, you are using a controller, and input to controller is digital. So obviously you need an element in between which is analog to digital controller. So if you see the diagram here, you have a switch which is as good as a sampler. If you go to our main diagram, we did write A to D conversion. So we have analog signals, we are converting it to digital, and we are giving it to a computer or controller. Now, when you're giving it to the controller, what you get is R star. Now, in ordinary routine ways, moment I consider, for that matter, I consider C of S. On ordinary ways, C of S will be G of S into R star. But then this will be a mixture, right? You have one component which is digital and the other one is analog. So what is it that we do in pulse transfer function? In pulse transfer function, we prefer to relate R star with C star. And this is exactly what is pulse transfer function. If I have to put up the same logic in very simple words, in earlier chapters, you were dealing with a continuous data. When it is continuous data, Laplace works. Now you're working on a digital data, sampled data. When it is digital or sampled or discrete also, we go to Z transform. So the pulse transfer function is nothing but Z transfer function. That is all. So the difference that we have here is this start function. That is all which makes PTF. So as the name indicates, it is nothing but pulse transfer function. Is that okay? Rishikesh, are you with us now? Is that clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes.
we will take a break for next 2 to 3 minutes by the time I schedule the next meeting, and I'll share the code immediately. Ayush will do the needful. Thank you so much, Ayush. Okay, so I'll end this meeting now and restart the next one immediately.